In 1769, a throng of Bostonians gathers at the Liberty Tree to celebrate the 4th anniversary of the Stamp Act resistance. The hours-long celebration includes music, the firing of a cannon, dinner, and multiple toasts. Britain's Parliament had passed the Act for granting and applying certain stamp duties in the British colonies and plantations in America, better known as the Stamp Act, on March 22, 1765. It put a small tax on several items, many of them paper goods, like official documents, newspapers, and playing cards. Those accused of violating the Stamp Act could be tried in the Vice Admiralty courts, which had no juries and could be held anywhere in the British Empire. The act was intended to help the British government pay back massive debts incurred fighting the French and Indian War, or 7 Years' War, which had concluded 2 years earlier in 1763. American colonists fiercely opposed the Stamp Act, seeing it as a direct attempt by Britain to levy taxes without colonial consent. It ignited widespread protests across the colonies and popularized the rallying cry, "No taxation without representation." Organized groups like the Sons of Liberty emerged, leading demonstrations, boycotts of British goods, and acts of civil disobedience. Some of the protests even turned violent. The resistance ultimately forced the British government to repeal the Stamp Act in 1766, but the conflict set the stage for future disputes over taxation and representation, fueling the drive toward American independence. In 1945, photographer Alfred Eisenstadt takes his iconic photograph of a sailor and a nurse kissing in Times Square on VJ Day, or Victory over Japan Day, when Japan announces its unconditional surrender to the Allies, ending World War II. The spontaneous kiss, which symbolizes the exuberant celebration of Japan's surrender, has become one of the most enduring images of the era. The photograph appears a week later in Life magazine and is given a full-page display, among many photographs of celebrations around the U.S. that are presented in a 12-page section entitled Victory Celebrations. The sailor in the photo has since been identified as George Mendonça, and the nurse as Greta Zimmer Friedman. The two were total strangers. The photo has come under condemnation in recent years, acquiring a sort of #MeToo infamy, as Friedman has acknowledged that the kiss was non-consensual. In 2003, the second biggest power blackout in history affects 50 million people in the northeastern U.S. and southeastern Canada. It affects small towns and major cities, including New York, Toronto, and Detroit. It is triggered by a series of faults caused by tree branches touching power lines in Ohio, which are then complicated by human error, software problems, and equipment failures. It lasts as long as 48 hours in some areas. The event highlights vulnerabilities in the electricity infrastructure and prompts a reevaluation of grid management and emergency response protocols. Despite the initial chaos, the blackout also showcases the resilience and solidarity of affected communities as people navigate the challenges of a sudden and extensive power loss. Only one power blackout in history is larger. That outage occurs over 2 days in northern India in 2012, affecting 670 million people, which is half of India's population and nearly 10% of the world's population.